Hello, this is my presentation on the Veteran Career Reintegration Program. So, this program is a all-in-one reintegration program, and it's designed for individuals who are separating from the military. Um, One of the biggest things about this program, and the reason that we have to have a program like this is um, integration into the military is a lot different than integration into a company like Google or Steam or Microsoft, because in those companies they expect for you to adhere to certain standards, and there is integration into their culture, but it's a bit different within the military. The military requires a heavier amount of indoctrination to the ways, the culture, and the being of the service. And so, therefore, when it's time for somebody to separate, the separation is a bigger deal because of the impact that the service has had on the individual's life. If you think about it, when you go and work for a large corporation like Amazon, of course they indoctrinate you into their ways, but you don't live at the company. You don't give up your life. You don't bleed and harm your body for the corporation. You get to go home. You have your own freedoms. In a lot of cases within the military, you give up a large amount of your freedom, and oftentimes they tell you where to eat and sleep and where to live, and they control your life. They can even punish you and take away your money. So it is a big difference. It's a big cultural difference. And so this program is designed to help ease that burden when there is a transition from the military. So this program is a little bit different because it's a catch-all for all service members making any kind of career change. But the specific emphasis is on individuals who have not made the transition to civilian life yet. Those who are about to leave but have not fully made that transition yet. And there are a lot of different programs that are offered. But sometimes those programs, especially the ones for individuals who have not made the transition yet, um, those programs are hosted by the Department of Defense. And if you know anything about the government and working with the Department of Defense, they are not always the best programs, and they can be a lot more intrusive. And sometimes the correct way of facilitating that change is for is to have to empower the individual who is transitioning, rather it seem like it being a chore, it being something that they want to participate in. And so that's kind of the way that I am viewing this program, and that's why it's important and a little bit different. So the purpose of this program is to support the transition of these individuals into the civilian workforce. Military service separation is a lot more difficult for the reasons I was talking about before. It requires um, a big cultural shift for the individual, and this, in order to facilitate the transition, it requires a knowledge of the service culture. The reality is that military culture in general is a big culture, but each of the individual branches have their own unique cultures within. The Marine Corps and the Army are not the same. The cultures are very much different, and it requires an understanding of those differences. Even if you are not intertwined within one of those cultures, you need to understand that there is that difference. And so that's one of the biggest things in a program like this, understanding how and why that culture is different. So this program is designed to have a lot more levels of support than even the current programs that are offered by the Department of Defense and Veterans Affairs and things like that. And there are different services because uh, it's, they're going to consist of traditional career services, the things you think of when you think of career services, helping with resumes and things like that. But also, there are other services that this program would include, like traditional transitional services, um, understanding the logistics of transition, understanding, hey, these are the records that you need to keep up with in order to go see your VA doctor. This is the process of the VA. These are the things you need to think about here. This is how you're going to deal with the moving. This is how you're going to deal with closing out personnel issues and things like that. Behavioral counseling, which is absolutely important. Family and couples counseling. This is something that I feel is oftentimes missed. The behavioral counseling is oftentimes included, but we forget that when an individual transitions and they have the family, that whole family is transitioning. Sometimes the individual is transitioning from a different country, and then that's kind of a double layer. Now you have an individual who are coming back into the family. Maybe they've been gone for a year. Maybe they've been gone for a couple of years if they, it's a place like Germany or Japan. And now you're reintegrating back into their family. Oftentimes, um, when an individual is leaving their family, is because they have high schoolers and they didn't want to uproot them. So now you're you're reintegrating somebody back into a situation, and that individual, the family unit, has older kids, and now those kids are changing so much, and so a year or two away is a big reintegration. Is very important. Um, Group counseling, because we understand that the cultural differences is very much a shared culture within the military, and when individuals try to transition on their own, it can be very lonely, even if they do have a family. But especially if they don't, that group counseling can be a very good support. Simulation and role playing. And so we'll talk about a few of those interventions a little bit more in some of the other slides. Um, so population for this program is pre-separation service members, all branches of the military, officer enlisted, and these services will be offered to pretty much everyone. Why pre-separation? This is an important question. So the separated service member, they have a lot of resources at their disposals, and then they don't really have any confidentiality requirements when you separate. You are then kind of free, and they have their freedom to do what they need to do. However, if you're pre-separation, it changes a lot of things, and a lot of service members don't want to say certain things because they understand that they have things hanging over their head, i.e., there are documents that are being withheld until they actually transition from the military. And so this is focusing on those individuals within that culture who are still within. And it's the interesting thing is for service members, there is a culture, but then there's also a culture within that culture from the individuals who have transitioned and individuals who have not transitioned, and so their needs are slightly different. The cultural changes are different from. Oh, I guess that's what I said. But this one asks, service members who have separated for a longer period do have a completely different view and look at the world. When an individual has been in the military, especially for 10, 12 years, they view the world much differently. And then when they separate, it is a bigger shock. The longer you've been in, the bigger the shock it is because you have to account for more indoctrination into the military life. And so that change becomes even larger and sometimes more difficult for that transition. So theoretical framework for me is important because it kind of conceptualizes the way that I view this phenomenon of separation within service members. And there are really two big baskets that I'm pulling from: Vygotsky's social cultural theory, and then the social cognitive career therapy theory. So starting with the social cultural theory, um, the major tenet is really human learning is a social process, and this is not a learning this is not a learning venture per se, but we can use social cultural theory in this context because one of the things about social cultural theory is it is not just strictly for the context of learning, because we understand that social processes cannot be separated from other aspects of human life. In other words, learning is related to being, and then any type of interaction we have is is couched within the context of the social and the cultural. So this is a long way of saying um, social cultural theory is appropriate because the idea of transitioning is rooted in social cultural pretense, which is the reason why in the first few slides I talked a lot about the culture of the military. The culture is what makes it different than other types of transition. And as a matter of fact, the transition becomes important because of the culture. In military culture, there are many things that are appropriate. For example, rough housing with your friends and swearing. That is very much a tenet of the culture. But if you to walk out and to walk into Google campus and try to wrestle with your what do they call it, the cubicle mate, things might not go very well. If you try to use the same jokes that you did when you were in the military, things probably are not going to go very well, and you're probably going to get fired. So the cultural impact of the transition is key. It is extremely important. Otherwise, an individual could leave the military and just walk right into a civilian job and not have any issues. And that does happen, but it doesn't happen without a shift of that culture. So I think that social cultural theory is extremely important to the understanding of this phenomenon. Is important to this particular program. Social cognitive career theory is also important because of the tenets of social cognitive career theory. The main aspects is self-efficacy, belief, outcome expectation, goals, and the contextual aspects. All these things play an important role. For example, self-efficacy beliefs are formed in the aspect of, if I don't believe that I have the ability to do something, then that is going to affect how I approach it. Seeing others who are like me, seeing them succeed is important. So that kind of goes into, and both of these theories play a big role when they talk about the theory. So theory directly related to the interventions the center we use. So that's the same for both of these. So let's go to interventions. So the interventions, I list out some of the interventions. These are some of the same ones you saw in the earlier slide. However, the difference is now I kind of overlay some of the different aspects of the theoretical framework. So goal setting, for example, goal setting is key when talking about outcome expectations and goals. Um, if I can set goals, I set them with certain outcomes in mind. If I believe that I can fulfill certain things, then it's going to affect how I create those goals. Talk therapy is a key component of this program, and it is all about self-efficacy, beliefs, and goals. Then the goals is pretty simple to kind of understand. Within therapy, we set goals with our clients, but the self-efficacy belief is important because individuals may not believe that they have the ability to complete certain aspects of their transition. And so the talk therapy is absolutely important because what it allows for the individual to do is to explore why they believe that they have these abilities or why they don't believe that they have these abilities. Uh, Prime example, an individual might have had a certain position within the military and they may have delayed their transition because they don't believe that they have the requisite skills to do anything outside of the military. We see this oftentimes when we're dealing with combat service members who do things like, for example, field artillery or armor or infantry, where learning how to drive a tank or fire a tank or fire artillery is a key component of their job. However, what civilian jobs are going to require you to do any of those things? Probably none. And so the individual thinking about their transition may have stress because they're sitting back and thinking, I'm going to have to get a job, but all I'm qualified to do is drive this tank, which there is no civilian component that is that that is going to that is not going to really go over in the civilian world too easily. So talking about those self-advocacy beliefs and helping them understand why what they're capable of, and even examining why they believe that they're not capable of doing other things. Coaching is an important one. Um, Job coaching and those type of things. They incorporate outcome expectations and self-efficacy beliefs for multiple reasons. The coach will be individuals who have served and have been in their very same position. And so when we talk about outcome expectation and self-efficacy beliefs, seeing somebody has filled who has gone through the same path that they have been is going to be very motivating. It's going to allow them to have a higher understanding that they can do the same thing. Also, outcome expectations is something that needs to be coached oftentimes because if you don't truly have a good grasp on where you see yourself in the future and what this outcome looks like, then it's going to be difficult in order to plan for a different future. Group therapy is a big one for some of the same reasons, the self-efficacy beliefs, um, but also remember the cultural component. Um, this is what the social cognitive, not social cognitive, social cultural theory. Because one of the things that group therapy allows us is to have a shared talk about our shared experiences, and then at the same time, the self-efficacy beliefs, seeing others who are struggling with the same thing allows us to also have some um, triangulation between what individuals believe about themselves and what they believe about others. Value card sort is one that comes directly from the cognitive theory, and what it allows us to do is to help individuals see what values they have, and then determine what are the most important values and how those values come into play when we are discussing a future career. Assessments, self-efficacy beliefs. Obviously, assessment is going to be an important part of this process. A lot of individuals who are seeking career help will need to rely on assessments in order to help them to determine what types of things they're interested in, and maybe where their strengths may lie. Simulation exercises sometimes is especially for individuals who've been in the military, they may not have a lot of experience with actually going through and doing interviews. 'Cause remember, getting into the military is not a lot of interviewing. There might be some, but it is a much different interview. And so, getting a civilian position will likely require interviews and doing things like that, other job search things, maybe even like some of the job search behaviors that they're not used to. Uh, this is where you see individuals who have completed the process, who I view myself like. If I believe that this individual is like me and they have this ability and I have similar abilities, then that will help me raise my expectations and my self efficacy beliefs. Peer work, working with other individuals, again, we understand that there is a social component, and working with peers is going to help. Is going to help strengthen that community and that cultural bond, and it also plays a factor in outcome expectations. Setting. Setting for this program will be in a private practice type setting. They're going to have a lot of different rooms. The different rooms are going to have specialized themes. You're gonna have therapy rooms. You're gonna have group rooms with larger chairs arranged in a circle. Your therapy rooms are going to be flexible. You're going to have some couches and you have some chairs and some places that are relaxing. Also, you're going to have some sensory rooms. Maybe you have individuals who have suffered from PTSD or any other type of trauma, and sensory rooms might be something that is helpful for them. Um, and then you'll have some business settings for things like mock interviews and things like that, simulations. Evaluation is going to be important. Evaluation is important for every program. As a person who is a program evaluator, I have a strong belief that if you want your program to be good, you should come up with some kind of evaluation plan that is supported and that is robust. We're going to use systematic goal focused program evaluation. There are specific goals related to this program, and so it makes it a lot easier for the program to be evaluated. All you have to do is simply look at those goals and then create systematic ways in which you can view the success of the program. There will be focused, there will be both qualitative and quantitative um, schemes for program evaluation. We use a mixed method scheme with the mixing methods of the qualitative methods provide details while the quantitative um, provide support to the qualitatives. And so, doing things like focus group interviews and one-on-one interviews to see um, how individuals are progressing and how the program has facilitated their growth. And then for the quantitative, we have things like survey interviews, repeated measures, for longitudinal studies, following individuals throughout the program, follow them beyond the program, and see how it has impacted them. Same thing is using perception surveys and then outcome data. What percentage of individuals get job within a month? What percentage of individuals get job within 2 months? What percentage of individuals who get receive jobs or careers and stay within that career? How many individuals get promoted? Those type of things. So there's a lot of different possibilities there. References. Final thing is here. Here are the references I use, and just in general. Thank you for listening to the presentation. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.